Wargamers, today we are going to be painting up Sergeant Cassius, the Ultramarine from the Space Marine Adventures box. Let's jump straight into the build. So we are going to wicked fast cut Cassius off the sprue here. Man, I wish I could work this fast in real life. The first thing we are going to put through our airbrush is going to be some matte black primer because I want to get everything nice and dark and make sure that paint sticks really well. Cover up that real pretty blue just to turn around and bring that ultramarine blue back. I targeted all of the body panels and I left as much of the things that weren't going to be blue unpainted. Well, our ultramarine blue is drying. I'm going to take some deep gray and with some really light brush strokes, I'm going to go over all of the stones on his base, as well as the stones connected to his foot so that everything is uniform. I'm going to use nice and light strokes so that I leave the black showing through where it would be grout in between the stones themselves on the pavement. Now we're going to grab oak brown and we are going to use it for all of the dirt across the base and just kind of fill in some of the gaps. I also did a little light scratching along the side to bring a little bit more color to the side of the stones. Now we're going to move over to the miniature itself and we are going to use oak brown as the base tone for all of the leather. That includes the holster on his hip as well as his belt and tassels hanging off of that belt. Now we're going to grab some ash gray and using some really small strokes and a very small brush, we are going to do some scratching across the stone to bring a little bit more natural variation, making sure to highlight some of the edges and really just randomize how those strokes look because we like a little deviation in our stone. Once we're happy with our dry brushing there, we are going to move over to the color Plate Mail Metal. I really like this color. I think it is a beautiful silver for weathered silvers. It's a little bit darker. We're going to use that on the vents on the base as well as the sword and the bolter pistol. With the sword, I made sure that I left some black exposed and I didn't give it a full coverage. So I was really wild with my brush strokes because I like scratched, deviated silver. The same steps across the bolt pistol, as I did across the sword so that there was a little bit of scratching, although the bolt pistol had a little bit more blue underneath it. So I was a little bit more careful with the silver here. Moving over to the ropes and tassels across his chest, we are going to use the color Wyvern Fury as our base coat. I really like this red. It goes on the model really pink, but it dries nice and dark, and I think it's a really good base tone for reds. We're going to use that same Wyvern Fury as the base tone for the helmet lenses. Now we're going to move into Greedy Gold for the Aquila, as well as the shoulder pads and shoulder pad accents. That includes the bottom of the shoulder pad, the back side of the shoulder pad, and all of the edges. I was not originally a super big fan of Greedy Gold as a color, but I've really come around to it with the Fanatics line. It is a significantly better color than it was in the original Warpaint line. We are going to move over to matte black for all of his carapace. That's going to be the back of the knees, the underside of the arms, anywhere where that black carapace is showing through. It also includes the underside of the neck. And then we're going to move over to the dark tone wash, and we are going to give this entire miniature a heavy, heavy dark tone wash. This is normally where I would be done with a model, but these Fanatics have really inspired me to push my painting. So I took a very light glaze of the Ultramarine blue, and I used it to bring a little bit of color back up to this model. Now this is where consistency was really important. I made sure I thinned my paints down to an actual glaze so that I wasn't just repainting over the surface, and I was allowing some of those shadows to really shine through. Next up, we are going to move over to Dryad Brown, which is the next step up in the triad for Fanatics Brown. And I'm going to roughly color in the leather products here, and I'm going to make sure I use not smooth strokes. I wanted everything to be a little bit scratchy. I wanted to make sure I targeted the raised areas, as well as any other places that look like they would get scratched. So these tassels have a lot of weathering and wear to them. They're going to be lighter in spots. They're going to be darker in spots. They're not going to have a smooth, consistent coat across them. And once I was happy with the leathers, I moved over to painting all of the whites. That's going to be this scroll work on the rear side of the jump pack, as well as the purity seals connected to his hip armor and the embedded scroll work on his right leg. I chose Ancient Stone as my base coat for the white. I think it's a really nice off-white that still reads pretty well, but it isn't super, super bright and in your face. We're going to highlight up with pure red for the brightest spots on the tassels and the ropes. And then we're going to move over to a glaze of matte white to bring a little bit more brightness to the underside and a little bit more smoothness to all of the white surfaces. Now we're going to work on some details, and I took a very small brush in matte black, and I did some writing across the purity seal, and then I decided to freehand the word Ultra on that front scroll work. The Space Marine Adventures box doesn't come with any decals, but that didn't stop me from digging into my pile and throwing on a couple of really cool decals on Sergeant Cassius here. And that is the last step. We are all done. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. My name is Josh, and this is Wargames Delivered, and we will see you next time.